really good at some form of symbolic expression or self-expression or some mode of cultural production in a fight with people who are really good at manipulating physical reality. And after 30 years of having those kind of fights, I've gotten really sick of it. And I've started to really feel like, doing the stuff that I've done for as long as I have really watched the sort of like collective temperament change a lot. In my youth, I felt like I was constantly surrounded by people who were like, global anarchist ecological revolutionists. And I was like, maybe not though, And now I feel like I'm almost never around anybody who really has much of any hope at all, really. And you can see the ways that people kind of toe the line, but then there's also all of these behaviors that tend to kind of strongly suggest that people are pretty fundamentally giving up. And I've really come to inhabit this sense of like, I don't know, I feel like I'm carrying this burden. And I don't know if I am doing a good job of articulating at all, like what the burden is, but it's something that emerges from having had the experiences of like a few decades of ecological political conflict and reading everything I've read, where I really feel like the sense of hopelessness that is taking people over. While I certainly share, while I am no stranger to despair and grief, I really have this distinct sense that response really is a little too rigid, that it really is like a trauma response in some sense, and that there really actually are a lot of very interesting, unexplored possibilities that just haven't been meaningfully engaged with in the kinds of movements and the kinds of political tendencies and whatnot that have ever gained any kind of sufficient prominence or prevalence to be doing things in the world in any recognizable way. And a primary one of those is this sense that just throughout, I'm sure, my own and I'm sure many of y'all's lives, there's been experiences that are kind of like these spontaneous paradigm shifts where, like I said, you go out to the forest and suddenly the world is reconfigured and, you realize that there's this direct continuity with all of existence that you hadn't quite comprehended before, or whatever the case may be. I'm almost sure that there's another set of experiences like that people like us could have, that would have more to do with getting out of some of the confines that our unique temperaments in a feedback loop with this unique social complexity we inhabit have kind of made invisible to us, that would give us more of a sense of how power might really be exercised. And I don't have a single definitive sort of practice that I'm employing to that end, but I do find that life is a lot more interesting, and watching the tragedy that we're all watching unfold feels a lot less like a meaningless horror. By just kind of engaging that question very actively, the sense that evolution is happening right now. I contain one very distinct set of the overall possibilities that I was born with. We are all manifesting a tiny, tiny proportion of the potentials that are latent within us at birth. And that there really might be other moments where, you're standing over here and everything looks one way, and then you kind of shift out of that paradigm and you see a bunch of truths that weren't accessible to you in the old embodied state. And I just really wanted people to, the thing that I really did want people to take away from this is that sense, that thrilling sense that evolution is happening right now and that you're participating in it, and that there's no neutral territory, there's no default option for your existence. There's nowhere you can just be where nothing's happening. You're always embedded in this process. And it's pretty thrilling and interesting, and I think worthy of like a different kind of attention being brought to bear on this crisis that we're inhabiting together than I typically see people bringing to bear on this crisis.
off somewhere else and came back, and there's a head train going. Thanks so much. I super appreciate that. Thanks, Schroder. Thank you, Lena, for coming in. Hope you all are having fun. I'm having fun.